So welcome, Mohammad Salemy. I wear your green and you wear my blue.
Yes.
So
I could also be green today.
So I recognize when we were talking with Nicola and Gamban that I'm very obsessed with the crash moments in the history. Like this also is a moment what we will talk about, which came later. Like you went to Beirut in 2017 on an invitation, and you were put in a kind of a high-rise condominium, which you were watching out to the port of Beirut. So it started with that.
Yeah, I'll just do like a basic, like a, what do you call it, like the director's talk. Yeah, so I had no intention of making a film. But I arrived at night with a Uber, go upstairs, the curtains are closed, I fall asleep. And in the morning I wake up and I hear this like really crazy like sound of like beep, 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 and I'm like, what's going on? And then as the day developed, it got louder. So then I got up and I opened the window and I couldn't believe what was in front of me, because the building was a 7-story, me being on the top floor, faced the port of Beirut, as if it's a Bruegel painting, with all this stuff happening. And I just thought that I want to like make a film. I didn't know what it's going to be about. I just thought this scene deserved to be documented, both in terms of long shots, but also a lot of like zooms into what people are doing. And it immediately kind of reminded me the way, what I call network paintings of Bruegel work, which they don't have a central figure. And the paintings, even though the Tower Bubble has a central figure, but actually he kind of worked against it by putting so much there that the central figure loses its significance. In his other paintings that are all in, most of them are in Vienna, you notice what I mean by network painting. There's no central figure. There's a lot of activity going on, whether it's the snow scene or like the kids playing in the kindergarten or like the procession one. You can't really pick one thing as the center. And so I just I had friends in the city. Lawrence Abu Hamdan was in town, and actually I was invited by him to be part of his seminar. So I said, find me someone with a good 4K camera so I can work with. And then we found someone, but then I was warned that like the militia, Hezbollah, controls the port, and if you point a camera, they will come and arrest you. So we really had to hide the camera and kind of make sure that people who are down there don't look up and say what is going on there. So it was a little bit also kind of like a suspense already of shooting this without them knowing. And then getting out of Beirut is not easy, because they check all your stuff again as you get out for like stolen artifacts and all that. And that itself made me think, okay, the film maybe should be about stolen artifacts. But I had no idea what stolen artifact or what. It was just a lot of talk in town that like basically Erdogan's family and like the Iranian corrupt rulers and Lebanese corrupt politicians are stealing stuff from the museums and selling it to private collectors, replacing them with duplicates that are fake. And basically Port of Beirut is a hub for that. And there was a lot of talk about how, yeah, but like a lot of it was coming from Turkey. And a lot of it was coming from Syria, because the Syria, after the civil war, it was just like, people were just taking artifacts. And then, so that became kind of like the idea for the film, like stolen artifacts, the port is a place where it gets exchanged, but also this sort of like makeshift tourism industry that actually make you be able to observe it. And then, a year and a half later, when Kunsthistorisch in Vienna put on the Bruegel show. I'm a big fan of Bruegel. So I made a trip to Vienna. It was really hard to get into the show because it was all booked. People had in advance booked it. So we had to like kind of intervene and find a curator there through a friend of mine, Francis Reuter, to say that we would like to see it. So the first time we went in, basically I noticed similarities in the bottom of the Tower of Babel painting with some of the footage I had made. The containers there look like, there's some containers that look like that at the bottom of the Bruegel painting, and I was just like, oh my God. And then reading about Bruegel, I realized that beside the two versions that were in the show, there was a third one that was missing. The original one, he did it as a miniature, as a sketch miniature, that went missing. So I immediately thought this is how I will relate the two stories, and the stolen artifact would be the first Bruegel painting that's missing. So that's how the kind of, and then, of course, in 2020, when the port exploded, the story got completed because the sort of like the theme of my research and a lot of the stuff that we do at the New Center is sort of like the conditions for the emergence of human level AI, or even human plus level AI, like AI even smarter than humans, and what kind of like philosophical and material and political conditions need to be met before we can actually move from this thing that the industry tells us is AI, and it's not, because it's just pattern recognition, generative production of text and images based on pattern. It's not really human level AI. So I thought I would, like, that was the idea. So then I thought I would kind of like make this missing artifacts as sort of like the core of why collective human intelligence resists being captured by capitalism and turn into part of this machine, this tower of knowledge. AI, Tower of Babel, is very related biblically, right? And then of course throughout the research, I found out sort of like the link between Benjamin and the idea of ruins and allegory and all that. So the story kind of came together like that.
It's not easy to moderate more, so I will use the whole opportunity to get in. You try to establish a speculative story, which is actually, we don't know is in the case of the fall if it's true or not, but we have moments in the film which you actually said, I want to have it from the beginning on. It was taught in really pixel-like moments. So you wanted to develop an image which was consisting of so many images, which was hyper-reality. Like you wanted to have also having it not counterwise, which is the Western society is. So so go the other way. So the film is 25 minutes, and each channel starts 1 minute after another. So it's kind of going up as the Arabic or the Persian language from right to left. So, but you have some moments where you can follow, and that is the text or the numbers. So they give us the road, like follow this way. So I think this is very interesting that you develop an image which is not there, and then you put all of them also in different sequences. So you erase the time and the space, so you define itself as the term of Babel is doing on the other side. So when the audience comes on the right side, they think that they see a historical painting which was done as a miniature, so you cannot see the details of it, and this got lost. And the two other originals are so detailed that you can loop inside and see everything, only in the original. In this big is only for the first time on Earth. So I think this is very important, how you get out and change the scale of this very important painting.
Well, what's happening on the mural side is also happening on the film side, and if I can take a minute to explain. So on the mural side, the mural was constructed out of stripes of high-res duplications of the painting that are in Google Art Experience. Back in 2018, there was a Russian-developed hack software that you could use to basically download all the scripts of any painting in Google Experience. It was amazing. I actually downloaded more than just this painting, because you would use this app, you would give the address of Google Art Experience of that image, and it would just make a folder on your computer. Probably it would also install Trojans and steal all your data and everything, but it didn't matter because I actually had purchased a particular computer for this project, so I kept it away from my rest of the system. So then, yeah, basically you could download any kind of painting in strips, but then you had to go back in Photoshop and put it back together. So yeah, so basically the image was stitched strip by strip by myself and my assistants. It took like days to develop this. It's like 30,000 pixel by 20,000 pixel image, and it can actually be enlarged to 8 meter by 23 meter. That's how big that image was. And then, yeah, it only came about because we created it. So then I thought it would be really interesting to put that up to basically kind of like slow down Bruegel's painting because the act of making an art and act of perceiving it happens in time, right? So when you enlarge the painting, you kind of like expand its time because you allow people to spend more time with it looking at it. If you look into some of the shots of the film, you see most people in the museum are just this close to it because they're trying to see all this little detail, right? And then across the street in the video, what happened was, as you guys are aware of it, because thanks to you, this work came about because from the beginning, it's been commissioned and supported by Adnan, by you, by even before you guys started working here, you were committed to this film. So the first idea was to create an algorithmic film, which was to develop an algorithm that will edit this. But between 2017 and now, so many, me myself did a couple of algorithmic film stuff, but I just thought it's just like too passé, and I just wanted to go back to analogy, like analog, rather than sort of like cybernetic and digital. But what is at the core of it is interesting is that those of you who are familiar with how cybernetics works is like cybernetic actually kind of freezes the time because the linear order of things is broken into everything is important at the same time without any kind of order. And the way we experience it is that back then Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, they were all basically as your friends posted, it would appear on your timeline. But at some point all the social media gave up on that and they made it algorithmic. So basically this linear time was lost to what algorithm decides to put on your screen. It could be from 2 weeks ago, that's something that Adnan posted, or it could be something you just posted now. I don't know, this black boxing of this logic, right? In the past we could always tell. You go to your wall and then you see the latest things your friend posted in a linear manner, right? So I thought this, dealing with it rather not, so like through AI and algorithm editing, but actually kind of like make the film, but then repeat it 25 times with 1 minute delay. But that does to the film what enlargement does to the painting, because basically if you stand there and watch it for a minute, you've seen the whole 25 minutes of the film, because every frame is playing 1 minute before that. So if you just watch the whole thing 1 minute, you've seen the 25 minutes. So I thought that would be the best way of kind of like commenting on this sort of like cybernetic algorithmic world we live in without succumbing to it.
I think we should just also name the composer who is with us, Barto. Yeah. Maybe a thank to you, because I think this is also a very important element, because there are two parts. I don't know if you experienced the work, but there is the narration, which we cannot hear first because we need to take the headphones. And there is a continuous, uncanny, repetitive sound, which is done by you, Barto. Thank you for that. So, but they were all sync. So
yeah. So I always wanted to have some music accompanying it with the narrative. So I collaborated with Barto, and basically we decided that we use, the film has basically 4 transitions in it, and also 24 breaks. So keeping the structure of like 4 transition, you're dividing it into 5, and each 5 itself into 5 little things. So that is also reinforced in the way Barto composed the music, and we picked 5 samples from sort of like underground pop music that we both like, and we manipulated those. Basically he did most of it. I just helped him pick a couple of the samples and he picked the rest of the samples, and kind of the soundtrack was developed based on that, based on this idea of like 25 and 5, because it's 5 rows and 5, so the music kind of like replicates that. And then the narrative, which I wrote, is read by really sort of like high resolution AI voices of a woman and a man. And basically this is like a future of a lot of podcasting, is that nobody's going to talk because these AI voices are so compelling, and there's hundreds of them. You can pick it based on accent, based on race. You can pick like English speaking with Russian accent, English speaking with, I don't know, Puerto Rican accent. Whatever you want, you can pick out of that and then play with the speed of it, put emphasis where you want, and then it basically generates the very compelling. You can say perform it emotionally, perform it rationally for each statement. So then you can really manipulate how much more than a real paid voice that you hire for this type of jobs. And most people won't believe that this is AI, but it's actually an AI voice. But I wrote and developed the text, and then the AI system produced the vocals, and then the vocals were mixed onto the music in the headphone, but then the room has the music alone. But these two are synced. So when you put the headphone on, the music you hear in the headphone is exactly in the same point where the music is outside, except it has the narrative on it. And when you take it out, it's as if you get that AI person out of your head and you go back just to the music.
I think there is also one more connection, I think, which we need to also say, because we are facing her painting, Etel Adnan, who is from Beirut. So I think also looking at the colors and starting with the colors. So we wear the colors of the painting, I recognize. It was not on purpose. I think it's important also to connect to Sea and Fog maybe at the end of today, because the artist talks will continue tomorrow. This is now the last one. All the artists have been kind of given the book and to kind of reflect a bit on that, and you know also Etel's writings, and I think it was very interesting to see in your work how literally the sea became the space of the fog, like like the port explodes. In one scene we only see really the ruins of the explosion. And it's so brutal, like the history and all the speculation what you are doing is gone. We don't know if it's true or not. So maybe you can see a last word onto that, ongoing from Reza's theory. Maybe that's because that led you all the time.
Yeah, really the story is kind of like the method with which, or the method with which I wrote the story is, I kind of like got inspired by Reza Negarestani's Cyclopedia. For those of you who've read the book or not, the book begins with this kind of like mysterious thing. There were like, Reza's partner from US arrives in Turkey, Istanbul, and she's led to kind of like a meeting that never happens, a book that's not there, going to secondhand stores and all that, and then finally she finds something, and then which is like the rest of the book. So that really captured my sort of like thinking in terms of how this story should be written, and the term that characterizes this style of writing is a particular type of speculative fiction, which is called hyperstition. And hyperstition is when you present your fiction as non-fiction, but you have certain real elements in the story that binds the not truth to the truth, and then you muddy it in a way that you don't know where the truth starts and where the untruth begins, and you kind of grow out of it. And I thought this documentary footage of the port, footage of the paintings is the true part, and then I can build my fiction or non-true part, the missing Bruegel, into it, and kind of make it look like, yes, there was an exchange that was going to take place in Port of Beirut, but just before the exchange, the port explodes, and the painting is never recovered because the painting escapes being captured.
Thank you.
You're welcome.